Hi, welcome to Happily Awkward. My name is Dee. I'm going to be your host for today. I wanted to do a light introduction on myself. I am in my late 30s, um, self employed, full time mom. And today's discussion, we are going to be talking about my disability. I have CFS, also called ME if you're mainly in Europe. And I don't hear a lot of people talk about my disability, CFS. It's also known as chronic fatigue syndrome. Most people, when they think of my disability, they just think about the word fatigue. And of course, everyone in the world has experienced fatigue once in a while, right? But the difference between regular fatigue and chronic fatigue syndrome is that the fatigue doesn't go away. It's not something like you just go to sleep, wake up, and whoop, you are all better. No, trust me, I wish. Um, I've had this disorder since 2011. Yeah, 2011. Um, it honestly got way worse during COVID. But I will say I had my chronic fatigue syndrome before everyone who had COVID got long COVID. So mine is different from long COVID, even though some people put them all together. Mine is way different. I had mine before long COVID came about. And back to having chronic fatigue syndrome. It's one of those diseases, if you don't have a healthcare system team that actually truly believes in you, they're going to think you're a hypochondriac. And I'm not lying. People truly are going to think that you are a hypochondriac. Especially if you go to the ER, they're going to think like you're looking for drugs or something like that, literally. And so you have to be like really diligent about starting your health process when it comes to um, finding out what's wrong with you. And I also have other health issues. I have chronic anemia. I also have ADHD, and I'm also neurodivergent, all wrapped together. But back to the chronic fatigue syndrome and how it has changed my life over the years. So, um, after getting out the military, I thought that, I would finally finish college, go back to school, get back to normal life. No, no, no. Let me tell you something about chronic fatigue syndrome. It's one of those diseases, it likes to fool you. You think that, oh, I'm finally getting better. I am finally my health is getting better because I haven't had any symptom like major flares in the last couple of weeks, couple of months. It's like that ex that never wants to want to leave. It comes back with vengeance, okay? I don't know if any of you guys know the spoon theory, but I had to learn that the hard way because when you I like to when you first get disabled, not like people who were born disabled, that's a different whole category, but people who weren't and got sick later, they still, a lot of the healthcare, they want you to act like you're going to get better. We're going to figure out what these health issues are and we are going to fix it, okay? Because there's an underlying issue, we just haven't figured it out yet. The thing that they don't tell people, and after having chronic fatigue syndrome for so long, is that you have to realize that your old life that you had before getting chronic fatigue syndrome is long gone. Now, you might get back to a base, to a steady base, but the life that you had before you had chronic fatigue syndrome is dead. It's in the coffin. You will never. I have a lot of friends who also have chronic fatigue syndrome, online, everywhere. I've never met somebody, 99% of people who truly have CFS, they never go back to where they were from the beginning. They get a little bit better, but they don't truly get, there's no, what is it called? Oh my goodness. There's no healing from CFS. There's no cure for CFS. Okay? It's almost like once you trigger whatever genetic component in your body, your system, that opens up, there's no closing that. It's open. I'm not a doctor, I'm not in healthcare, but that's just how I feel. I feel like once you trigger that gene component for you to have chronic fatigue syndrome, there's no closing it. I mean, there's slowly like healing from getting back to baseline, like I said before, but there is no healing from chronic fatigue syndrome unless your chronic fatigue wasn't from CFS. It was from another underlying disorder, That's the only time I've seen people truly 100% heal from CFS, is when the CFS was caused by another disability or disorder. It's like, basically I tell people, it's like, how would I say? It's like having to live with like wearing glasses. I've been wearing glasses since I was 8, like 8 or 9, okay? I have bad eyes in my family. But you just get used to it. You just have to get used to your new normal. There's no getting better eyesight. I mean, you can have surgery, but realistically, genetically, your eyes are just crappy, okay? It's your genetics. So, what have I learned since 2011, since having chronic fatigue syndrome? One thing I have learned is that some people might not agree with me, but this is me. I can never go back to having a 9-to-5 job. Between the chronic fatigue syndrome and also be neurodivergent, I wouldn't even do it. I would feel bad even to try to get hired at a normal business that requires you to have a set schedule, set time that you have to be. Our health is so wonky. Like literally today, I could be fine. I could have energy to do some extra shit, extra work, and get things done. And tomorrow I will be flat out in pain in bed. Barely can move. Which employer is going to be able to accept that? Let's be real. Which employer is going to be able to accept that you can't come to work every single day? I have some friends who work from home. I work from home, right? But they work for companies, Even if you can work from home, you're still going to have really crappy days, more than the average person in terms of being sick and health. Then don't add, like me, I'm a mom, so I have a kid. So don't add their sick days too to that schedule. I just don't see how that would comprehend how you would be able to do that, to be able to work full time for somebody else outside of your home, CFS. Trust me, I've tried, and no matter how much they couldn't, between my doctor appointments, health issues, it's just no way. That's how I became self-employed and started my own business. And what I love about it is when I have bad days, I could rearrange my calendar, rearrange my schedule, and I'm not in trouble. Well, other than when I have wholesale orders, those are like strict deadlines. That's why I'm like, when I get a wholesale order, I'm like, I'm trying to hurry up and get it done, because with my health, you just never know. But it's really hard to have like a normal life with CFS. I have people, I call myself mid. I know people who are severe, like they are stuck on their beds. If they didn't have family, no lie, if they didn't have family helping them day to day, they literally, I know a couple people that have died from CFS, and it wasn't exactly the CFS that killed them. It was the after effects. Like, I've known people who like died literally because they couldn't eat while having CFS. You know, and a lot of people don't think about that. They just think like, oh, you're just being lazy. You don't want to work. You don't want to do anything for yourself. I promise you, if you ever get, I hope you never get to experience having chronic fatigue syndrome. But the best way to describe it is like, it's like cancer, but without the recovery. You're constantly in that high and that low, high and low. It's like a never ending. And the day that you do go over your spoons, I don't know if you don't know what the spoon theory is, but it basically describes the clock, right? We all have 24 hours in a day. So imagine that in spoons, right? At least with me, with my CFS, I know that I can only drive 4 hours max a day. And that's long haul, 4 hours. If I have to make stops, for example, I can only go one place for one day. So example, if I need to go grocery shopping, right? And I have to physically go into the grocery store to shop, that has to be literally the only thing I do for the whole day. For the most part. Because that would literally take all of my energy, having to drive to the grocery store, shop for groceries, and drive back home. That would literally be my whole day. I have other friends who have CFS who they can't shower daily. They can't brush their teeth daily. They barely have energy to eat. And I was close to being on that level if I didn't change my whole lifestyle. There's a lot of people, you have to be really careful because there's so many people on like YouTube and TikTok who's like, I healed my CFS by taking these supplements, by doing this, by doing that. Now, do supplements help? Yes, they definitely help if you already have a deficit, you know. If you go to your doctor, you do some blood tests and it shows that you have vitamin deficiency or other deficits, yes, supplements can help, but it's not going to cure you. It's not going to cure you. And I think that's what a lot of people, not even just CFS, I feel like a lot of people who have chronic illnesses is that these doctors are giving them false hope that they're going to be 100% back to where they were originally, and that's not the case, or it wouldn't be called chronic illness. Okay? You have to realize that this is your new normal. Okay? The goals, I feel like as someone who has chronic illness, your goals should be able to be self-sufficient. That should be your main goal, is to be self-sufficient, so you can be able to take care of yourself by yourself, do be able to do light work, be able to hopefully financially support yourself, you know? And that's my main goals right now, is to be able to take care of myself, financially support my family, and take life slowly, you know? But I know that everybody else can't do that, you know? What scares me when it comes to chronic fatigue syndrome, and a lot of friends that I know, is the people who have no help, no family. What is the end game? What is the end game? And that's what some of these doctors aren't telling their patients, or they're too afraid to talk about. Like, if you cannot take a shower daily or a couple times a week, you can't brush your teeth, you barely can feed yourself, and your doctors have not talked about you getting a live-in care or nursing help, or sadly you moving to assisted living, that would be like the next step, you know, is assisted living, when you can't start taking care of yourself. But nobody has this discussions with their health team. Like, you have to think about not just right now, but like the future. Like, as a patient, I told my doctor, like, if it gets to the point where I can't physically take care of myself anymore, it's time to start discussing either me moving in with family and they all live out of state, or me moving to assisted living. But one of those two things are going to happen if I cannot better myself. Luckily, right now, I'm mid-level and I can physically still do things, and I know my max. Okay? Some people don't know their max, which for me is a bad thing, because you need to know what your triggers are. You need to know what your max of activities is. And if you have family, or if you're married, or you're living with other people, they need to know what your max is, so that they can help you day to day not to go over that max. I see so many of my friends who are married with chronic fatigue syndrome, and their spouse and their family don't understand that your life is forever changed. It's not going back to normal. So you guys as a family need to come together to figure out, how are we going to take care of our family and still survive, and still take care of you as the chronic illness person, you know? Um, I'm all over the place, blaming on my ADHD. But I feel like it's really important as people who have chronic illness to keep track of things, you know? I have like a binder of like doctors, prescriptions that I take, things that I need to do, like more doctors I need to go call to get referrals for, and stuff like that, you know? And I feel like a lot of people are so focused on trying to get better, which if there was a cure right now, I would totally get it. But I feel like you're losing the basics of everything. You know, you can't take care of everybody else if you're not taking care of yourself, you know? Um, some of the things that I changed in my life, other than like becoming self-employed, um, I dropped down to being a minimalist, but not the gray white wall type of minimalist, okay? I dropped down to not having so much stuff in my life. I'm not afraid to throw things away. Okay? And as someone who's chronic illness, I don't have time or the finances to have to deep clean every week. You know, the best thing you can do is lower your responsibilities. Try to make your life more easier. So I have a schedule. I wake up at certain times. When I first wake up, I know I need to take my vitamins. Then I need to get a quick snack. Now, when I first wake up, that doesn't mean that I'm up for the day. That just means I woke up. So I try to take, if it's already morning, I try to take my vitamins, and either I will like eat some applesauce or like a light snack. And if I'm still groggy, trust me, those with CFS know, if you're still groggy, you can go back to bed if you can. Some people have appointments and other responsibilities you have to wake up to get to. That's different. Then get your butt up. Drink some coffee. It will help. But if you don't and you're still kind of groggy, go back to sleep. There's nothing wrong with going back to sleep. Go back to sleep. When you wake up, you will feel so much better. You're going to be hungry, but you're going to feel so much better. I don't want this vlog to be too long, but as a chronic illness person, the main thing I want to say is take care of yourself. Take care of yourself because no one else is going to take care of you better than you. So please take care of yourself. And if you need help, finding like doctors and basic information on stuff to get the ball rolling, do a Google search. I know that's crazy, but Google and TikTok and type in your city or the nearest town. I will say though, I know it's not helpful for everybody, but if you have chronic fatigue syndrome and you live in a rural area, you're gonna have to move, honestly. You are going to have to move into a mid-city or a bigger city, like a little small town outside of a big city, in the suburbs somewhere, because you're not going to be able to get that much or any like really good medical treatment living so far away from the teaching hospitals. It's just honestly, unless you're one of the lucky ones who have a lot of money or family with money who are able to fly you out anywhere you need to go or whatever. But other than that, you're going to have to move. But I will say there is so much community if you have the energy and time to look. The biggest community I found has been Facebook. There's a CFS group. There's the main one for the USA, and they have other international people there. But then there's also one for Europe, and I think there's also one for Australia too. But just type in CFS or chronic fatigue or ME, and it should come up. And then there's a lot of us on TikTok. I don't do much on TikTok, but there's so many people to follow on TikTok that has chronic fatigue syndrome, and also people with long COVID has been really helpful. There's also local groups. I've met a couple of local people who have CFS. Of course, I don't get to see them that often because of, how hard it is to travel and stuff. But you never know. You might find someone locally to you. Even if you guys can't meet up, you guys can like maybe text or talk on the phone, check on each other. It's great to have company sometimes, But please follow my vlog, and I'm going to be talking about a lot about chronic fatigue syndrome, budgeting, being neurodivergent, and being a small business owner while having chronic illnesses. Thank you so much and hope to see you soon.